The blade pressed against Marcus Aurelius Varro's throat, drawing a thin line of blood that trickled down his neck. Around him, 5 hooded figures stood in silence, their faces obscured in the dim light of the underground chamber. The only sound was his own ragged breathing. One wrong move, one wrong answer, and he would join the countless others who had failed this final test to enter Rome's most feared military unit. "Tell me, recruit," whispered the man holding the blade, "would you die for Rome?" Before we continue this harrowing journey into the heart of ancient Rome's deadliest fighting force, take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Your support allows us to bring these forgotten chapters of history to life. Now, let's return to Marcus's fateful decision, Marcus swallowed hard, feeling the cold steel bite deeper. "No," he said firmly. The blade pressed harder. "No. I would not die for Rome," Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger. "I would kill for Rome. I would suffer for Rome. Death is easy, living to fight another day when everything in you wants to surrender, that is what truly serves the empire." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then, unexpectedly, laughter erupted from the hooded figure. The knife withdrew. "Welcome to the Umbra Mortis, shadow of death. You are one of us now." Marcus had never imagined himself here, kneeling in a secret chamber beneath the Eternal City, being initiated into a unit so secretive that most Romans believed it to be merely a dark legend. 6 months ago, he had been a respected centurion in the Legio II Augusta, stationed in Britannia, his life orderly and predictable. That was before the night raid that left half his men slaughtered and Marcus himself disgraced, the sole officer to survive what many whispered was a tactical blunder of his own making. The official record called it an ambush by barbarian forces 3 times their number, but Marcus knew the truth was far more complicated. Someone had betrayed them, someone with intimate knowledge of Roman military movements. Stripped of his rank and returned to Rome in shame, Marcus had expected execution or, at best, reassignment to some disease-ridden frontier. Instead, he was approached by a plainclothed man in a nondescript tavern near the Tiber. "Your disgrace presents an opportunity," the stranger had said, sliding a small wooden token across the table. Carved into it was a symbol Marcus had never seen, a hooded figure holding both a sword and scroll. "For those who wish to serve Rome from the shadows." That token had led him through a series of clandestine meetings, tests of loyalty, and ultimately to this chamber, where he now found himself accepted into a unit whose existence was denied by every official in the empire. Commander Titus Valerius Rufus studied the new recruit with calculating eyes. At 53, Rufus was ancient for a soldier, his body a map of scars from 3 decades serving in the Umbra Mortis. Most men in his position would have been long dead or retired to some administrative post. Instead, he led Rome's most dangerous military unit with ruthless efficiency. "You are not here by accident, Varro," Rufus said, his voice gravelly from an old throat wound. "Your disgrace in Britannia was convenient." "Convenient?" Marcus felt his anger rise. 38 good men died. "And that is regrettable," Rufus replied without emotion. "But necessary. Your record before that night was impeccable. Tactically brilliant, unflinchingly loyal, and most importantly, you possess something rare, the ability to question orders when they make no sense." Marcus's mind raced. The ambush, it was engineered? By Rome? Not by Rome, Rufus corrected. By enemies within Rome. The empire is rotting from within, Varro. While our legions defend our borders, traitors in silk togas and golden palaces sell our secrets, poison our emperor's ears, and grow fat on bribes from our enemies. Rufus gestured to the 5 other hooded figures who had now removed their coverings. 2 women and 3 men, each with the hard eyes of veteran killers. "The Praetorian Guard protects the emperor's body. We protect the empire's soul. Outside this room, we don't exist. The Senate has never authorized us. No record names us. We answer only to the emperor himself, and sometimes not even to him. A tall, lean woman with a Grecian profile stepped forward. "I am Lucia Cornelius, second in command." Her accent marked her as patrician-born, though something in her bearing suggested military training that no noble Roman woman should possess. "You are here because Rome faces threats that cannot be fought on open battlefields." Marcus looked around at his new comrades. Besides Lucia, there was Cassius, a dark-skinned man from North Africa whose specialty appeared to be disguise and infiltration, Atticus, a burly former gladiator whose scarred knuckles spoke of countless close-quarters kills, Naevia, a small, quiet woman who looked like a servant but whose eyes missed nothing, and Drusus, an older man whose refined manner suggested he had once moved in the highest circles of Roman society. "What exactly do the Umbra Mortis do?" Marcus asked. Rufus's smile was cold. "Whatever is necessary. Assassination. Sabotage. Kidnapping. Rescue. Intelligence gathering. Sometimes we protect those the Empire cannot publicly defend. Other times we eliminate those it cannot publicly condemn." "Murderers, then," Marcus said flatly. "Surgeons," Lucia corrected. "We cut out disease to save the body. A legion kills thousands to take a city. We kill one to save a province." Marcus's training began immediately and proved more brutal than anything he had experienced in the legions. By day, he learned to move unseen through Rome's crowded streets, to assume different identities, to kill silently with weapons hidden in everyday objects. By night, he studied political factions, memorized the faces of suspected traitors, and learned the subtle art of extracting information from both willing and unwilling sources. The Umbra Mortis maintained a headquarters beneath an unassuming tannery near the Tiber. The stench of the tannery kept curious noses away, while a series of tunnels connected their base to key locations throughout the city, including a hidden entrance to the imperial palace itself. It was in these tunnels that Marcus found himself sparring with Atticus 3 weeks into his training, learning how to fight in the confined darkness that might mean the difference between success and death on a mission. "You still fight like a legionary," Atticus grunted, landing a painful blow to Marcus's ribs. "Disciplined, predictable. In the shadows, discipline will get you killed." Marcus tried to adapt, to fight with the chaotic unpredictability that Atticus demanded, but years of legion training had ingrained patterns into his muscles that were difficult to break. "Your problem," Atticus said, pinning Marcus against the damp tunnel wall, "is that you're still thinking like a man with honor." Later that night, nursing bruised ribs and wounded pride in his sparse quarters, Marcus was visited by Naevia. The quiet woman rarely spoke during group training, but now she placed a steaming cup of herbal remedy beside his bed. "Atticus is right, you know," she said softly, her voice carrying a hint of an Eastern accent. "But he doesn't understand what it means to unlearn honor." "I do." "What were you before this?" Marcus asked, sipping the bitter but soothing liquid. Naevia's eyes grew distant. "I was a temple slave in Ephesus. Then a concubine to a Roman governor. Then, other things." She sat on the edge of his bed. "When the Umbra Mortis found me, I was to be executed for poisoning that governor. They recognized my talents were useful." "You were a poisoner?" "I still am," she said with a small smile. "Among other things. The difference is now I choose who deserves my special mixtures." Marcus studied her with new respect. "How did you learn to let go of what you were taught? To become this?" "I realized that honor is a luxury for those whose lives allow it," she said simply. "In the shadows, there is only survival and purpose. Find your purpose, Marcus, and the rest becomes easier." 2 months into his training, Marcus received his first mission. A minor one, Commander Rufus assured him, simple surveillance of a Greek merchant suspected of smuggling more than just silks and spices into Rome. "Information only," Rufus emphasized. "Follow him, learn his contacts, report back. Do not engage." The merchant's name was Stephanos, a heavy-set man with a booming laugh who maintained a shop near the Forum. For 3 days, Marcus shadowed him, using the techniques Cassius had taught him to blend into crowds, change his appearance, and remain unnoticed while never losing sight of his target. On the 4th day, Stephanos led him to a nondescript insula in one of Rome's less reputable districts. Marcus followed at a careful distance, watching as the merchant entered the building after checking to ensure he wasn't followed. Marcus waited, then approached the building from the rear, climbing to the rooftop of an adjacent structure as Naivia had taught him. From there, he could see into the upper window of the room where Stephanos now sat with 3 other men. They spoke too quietly for Marcus to hear, but he could see them examining what appeared to be architectural plans. Sketching their faces carefully on a small wax tablet, Marcus was about to retreat when he recognized one of the men, Quintus Servius, an officer he had known from his legion days. Seeing him here, conspiring with a suspected smuggler, confirmed Marcus's growing suspicion that the ambush in Britannia had indeed been orchestrated from within. His hand instinctively went to his dagger, the desire for immediate vengeance nearly overwhelming his orders. Only Rufus's final warning, "Do not engage," kept him from dropping through that window and demanding answers with his blade. Instead, he completed his surveillance and returned to headquarters, where he delivered his report with cold precision. "You did well to restrain yourself," Rufus said when Marcus finished, noticing the tension in the younger man's jaw. "Vengeance would have warned our true targets." "Servius was there when my men died," Marcus said through gritted teeth. "He knew." "Yes," Rufus acknowledged. "He is one small piece of a much larger conspiracy. One we have been tracking for months. Your connection to him is precisely why you were recruited, Varro. When the time comes, you will have your justice, but on our terms, not yours." That night, unable to sleep, Marcus found himself in the training area, methodically driving his dagger into a wooden post again and again, imagining Servius's face with each thrust. "That post has done nothing to deserve such treatment," came Lucia's voice from behind him. Marcus didn't stop. "I need to be ready. Ready to kill efficiently? Or ready to kill without emotion clouding your judgment?" she asked, moving beside him and gently taking the dagger from his hand. "There's a difference." "Both," he admitted. Lucia nodded. "The men who betrayed you will face justice, Marcus. But first, we need what they know." She handed the dagger back to him, hilt first. "Can you look into the eyes of the man who sent your soldiers to their deaths and not kill him immediately if that's what the mission requires?" Marcus took the dagger, feeling its weight. "I don't know," he answered honestly. "Then that's what we need to work on next," she said. "Because in the Umbra Mortis, personal vendettas are luxuries we cannot afford. Every action serves Rome first, ourselves last." As months passed, Marcus settled into the rhythms of his new life. The Umbra Mortis operated in small, specialized teams, rarely with more than 3 operatives on any given mission. Marcus found himself most often paired with Lucia and occasionally Cassius, their skills complementing his own military experience. Their missions varied widely. Some weeks they did nothing but gather information, watching suspected traitors or intercepting messages. Other times, they protected visiting dignitaries from threats the Empire couldn't publicly acknowledge. And sometimes, they eliminated threats with such precision that no one ever suspected assassination rather than natural causes. One evening, returning from a mission to retrieve sensitive documents from a corrupt official's villa, Marcus found Drusus alone in the headquarters' small library, poring over scrolls by lamplight. "Success?" the older man asked without looking up. "Yes," Marcus replied, placing a sealed leather pouch on the table. "Though I'm not sure what these treaties with Parthia have to do with our current concerns." Drusus finally raised his eyes, studying Marcus thoughtfully. "Everything is connected, young Varro. Today's diplomatic missive becomes tomorrow's declaration of war, or next year's peace treaty. In our work, context is everything." Marcus had come to respect Drusus, whose role in the unit was primarily analysis and strategy rather than fieldwork. The older man had once been a senior administrator in the imperial bureaucracy before some unspecified disgrace led him to the Umbra Mortis. "You've adapted well," Drusus observed, gesturing for Marcus to sit. "Better than most recruits with military backgrounds. They usually struggle with the moral flexibility our work requires." "You mean the killing," Marcus said flatly. "Among other things," Drusus acknowledged. "Soldiers kill, but they do so openly, under orders, facing an enemy who can fight back. What we do is different." "Is it?" Marcus challenged. "We serve Rome, just as the legions do." "Ah, but the legions serve a Rome that exists in the light of day," Drusus countered. "We serve a Rome that exists in ideal form, what Rome should be, not always what it is. Sometimes those visions conflict." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Commander Rufus, his expression grave. "Gather the others," he ordered. "We have a priority mission from the Emperor himself." An hour later, the full unit assembled in their briefing room, a circular chamber whose walls were covered with maps of the Empire and its neighbors. Rufus stood at the center, his weathered face illuminated by oil lamps. 3 days ago, the Emperor's niece, Julia Flavia, disappeared from her chambers, he began without preamble. The Praetorian Guard has found no trace of her. Officially, she is visiting coastal estates for her health. Unofficially, the Emperor fears she has been kidnapped by the same conspiracy we've been tracking. Marcus felt a chill. Julia Flavia was barely 16, more a symbol of imperial continuity than a political figure in her own right. Her kidnapping could only be meant as leverage against the Emperor himself. "Do we have any leads?" Lucia asked. "One," Rufus replied, unrolling a small scroll. "This was delivered to the Imperial Palace yesterday. No messenger was seen." He read aloud, "The girl lives. The Emperor's Eastern policy must change if he wishes her to remain so. Instructions to follow." "Eastern policy," Marcus repeated. "Parthia." "Precisely," Drusus interjected. "The Emperor has been negotiating a new treaty with Parthia that would strengthen our eastern borders but potentially threaten certain commercial interests, particularly those involving the silk trade." The connections immediately became clear to Marcus. "Stephanos. The Greek merchant I was watching. And his associates," Rufus confirmed. "We believe they're holding Julia somewhere in the city, waiting to extract concessions before the treaty is signed next month." "Why not simply bring in the Praetorians?" Cassius asked. "Arrest Stephanos and his known associates, search their properties?" "Because we don't know who else is involved," Rufus explained grimly. "The conspiracy has reaches into the Senate, possibly even the Praetorian Guard itself. A public move could result in Julia's immediate death. So we do this quietly," Lucia said. "Find her, extract her, eliminate the kidnappers." "Yes," Rufus agreed. "But with an additional element." He turned to Marcus. "Quintus Servius will be our way in. He doesn't know you're alive, much less part of the Umbra Mortis. You'll approach him as a disgraced centurion seeking revenge against Rome, a potential recruit for their cause." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "You want me to infiltrate their organization?" "It's our best chance to find the girl quickly," Rufus said. "Naivia will prepare appropriate background material suggesting you've been living in the city's underbelly since your return. Cassius will create a chance encounter with Servius tomorrow night." "And if Servius recognizes the trap?" Marcus asked. Rufus's expression was unyielding. "Then you eliminate him and we try another approach. But remember, the girl's life takes priority over your personal vendetta. Are you prepared for that?" Marcus thought of the men he had lost in Britannia, of the nightmares that still woke him. Then he thought of a frightened young woman held captive by the same men responsible. "I'm ready," he said. The tavern was exactly the kind of establishment where a disgraced, bitter former centurion might drink away his sorrows, dark, dirty, and frequented by men with haunted eyes and dangerous pasts. Marcus had spent the day transforming himself under Cassius's expert guidance, growing out his beard, deliberately dirtying his clothing, and practicing the slight limp of a man with an untreated war wound. He was on his third cup of watered wine when Quintus Servius entered, just as Cassius had arranged through carefully placed rumors of a man selling legion secrets. Servius had changed little since Britannia, still barrel-chested with a soldier's posture, though his uniform had been replaced by the more comfortable tunic of a civilian with means. Marcus kept his head down, watching from beneath his brow as Servius scanned the tavern, eventually settling at a corner table where he ordered wine and waited, clearly expecting to meet someone. After a calculated delay, Marcus rose, feigning drunkenness, and deliberately stumbled against Servius's table. "Watch yourself, dog," Servius growled, then froze as recognition dawned in his eyes. "By the gods! Varro? Marcus Varro?" Marcus allowed surprise and then bitter anger to wash over his features. "Servius. Come to find more men to lead to slaughter?" Servius's hand moved instinctively toward what would have been his sword, had he been in uniform. Finding nothing, he composed himself. "You're supposed to be dead." "Disappointed?" Marcus slurred, playing the drunk. "Sorry to ruin your perfect record." "Sit down," Servius commanded, glancing around the tavern to ensure they weren't overheard. "Now." Marcus complied, letting his body language convey resentment and defeat rather than the calculated purpose that drove him. "How did you survive?" Servius asked, his voice low. "Luck," Marcus spat. "Crawled under the bodies of my own men. Lay there while your barbarian friends finished off the wounded." The details were fabricated, but the anger behind them was real enough. Servius studied him carefully. "And now?" "The records show you were executed for cowardice." "The records show what Rome wanted them to show," Marcus countered. "They couldn't have a living witness to their betrayal, but my execution was private. The centurion supposed to do it took pity. Told me never to show my face again. And yet here you are, in Rome itself." Marcus leaned forward, dropping his voice. "Where better to hide than in plain sight? And where better to find ways to repay Rome for her gratitude?" Interest flickered in Servius's eyes. "Revenge, Varro? That doesn't sound like the loyal officer I remember." "Loyalty is earned," Marcus replied coldly. "Rome lost mine in a Britannia forest, along with the lives of 38 good men." For several long moments, Servius said nothing, merely sipping his wine and measuring the man before him. Finally, he spoke. "There are others who share your disillusionment with current leadership. Men with resources and vision." "Men like you?" Marcus asked with calculated bitterness. "Men far above me," Servius replied. "Men who see Rome's true future, not the path the current emperor blindly follows." "And what would these men want with a disgraced centurion?" "Your skills. Your knowledge of military protocols. Perhaps." Servius paused, a chance to strike back at those who betrayed you. Marcus allowed hope and hunger to show in his eyes. "I'm listening." 3 tense days followed, during which Marcus maintained his cover while slowly gaining Servius's trust. He learned that the conspiracy was indeed far-reaching, a coalition of wealthy merchants, corrupt officials, and disaffected military officers who stood to lose power or profit under the emperor's reforms. On the 4th day, Servius finally brought him to a villa on the outskirts of Rome, the same property where Marcus had first observed him meeting with Stephanos. There, in a richly appointed atrium, Marcus was introduced to the conspiracy's inner circle: Stephanos the merchant, Senator Lucius Junius, whose family controlled significant mining interests in the east, and a hard-eyed woman named Livia who Marcus recognized as a high-ranking servant in the imperial household. "Our new recruit," Servius announced. "A man with personal reasons to see change in Rome." Senator Junius studied Marcus with cold calculation. "Change requires sacrifice, centurion. Are you prepared for that?" I've already sacrificed everything for Rome, Marcus replied. Now I'm interested in taking something back. His answer seemed to satisfy them, and over wine and elaborate food, they began to reveal more of their plot. The emperor's niece was indeed their captive, held in a secure location as insurance while they pressured key senators to block the Parthian treaty. The girl is comfortable, Livia assured them, and will remain so as long as her uncle proves reasonable. Once the treaty is permanently shelved, she will be returned, with a convenient story about illness during her coastal sojourn. And if the emperor refuses? Marcus asked. The senator's smile was chilling. Then there will be a tragic accident, a state funeral, and a very clear message about the price of defiance. Marcus forced himself to nod in understanding, suppressing the urge to kill these plotters where they sat. Instead, he played his role, the bitter soldier, eager to be useful, hungry for inclusion in their schemes. By evening's end, he had gained enough of their confidence to be assigned his first task, delivering a sealed message to a contact within the Praetorian Guard. It wasn't the location of Julia Flavia, but it was a start, an entrance into their operation. You've proven your character, Servius told him as they left the villa. But trust must be earned. Complete this successfully, and greater opportunities will follow. The message is our best lead, Lucia said when Marcus reported back to the Umbra Mortis headquarters that night. We need to know what it contains without breaking the seal. Naevia took the sealed tablet. I can open and reseal it without detection, but we need time. Time we don't have, Marcus pointed out. I'm to deliver it tomorrow at midday. Then we work through the night, Drusus declared, already clearing space on the large table that dominated their strategy room. By dawn, they had carefully opened the message, revealing coordinates for what appeared to be a planned meeting between the conspirators and their Praetorian contact. More importantly, the message contained a reference to moving the package in 3 days' time. They're planning to relocate Julia, Rufus concluded. Which means we have less than 3 days to find her current location. I need to get closer to their inner circle, Marcus said. The delivery of this message is a test. Once I've passed it, they might reveal more. Too risky, Lucia argued. If they suspect anything. It's our best option, Marcus insisted. While I continue to infiltrate, the rest of you can follow the Praetorian contact after our meeting. He might lead us to Julia. After heated debate, Rufus finally agreed to the plan. But at the first sign they suspect you, withdraw. The girl's life and the security of Rome outweigh any information you might gain. The following day, Marcus delivered the message as instructed, meeting a grim-faced Praetorian officer named Flavius in a crowded marketplace. The exchange was brief and unremarkable, but as Marcus turned to leave, Flavius gripped his arm. Servius speaks highly of your military experience, the Praetorian said quietly. We may have additional work for you soon. Work that requires a soldier's discipline. I'm at your disposal, Marcus replied carefully. Flavius nodded. Return to the villa tonight. Bring whatever weapons you still possess from your legion days. As Marcus walked away, he could feel the Praetorian's eyes on his back, evaluating, measuring. Behind him, unseen in the crowd, Cassius began his careful surveillance of Flavius, while Atticus positioned himself to follow Marcus at a distance, ready to intervene if the meeting proved to be a trap. That night, Marcus returned to the conspirators' villa, bringing with him a legionary's gladius and dagger that the Umbra Mortis had provided from their extensive collection of weapons. He found the atmosphere tense, the earlier civility replaced by a focused energy that spoke of imminent action. Ah, our soldier arrives, Senator Junius said when Marcus entered the atrium. Good. We have a task that requires your particular skills. Stephanos emerged from a side room, followed by 2 hard-faced men who moved with the practiced wariness of hired muscle. The Praetorian reports that one of the Emperor's agents was following him after your meeting today, the merchant said, his eyes locked on Marcus. An interesting coincidence. Marcus felt a cold weight settle in his stomach but kept his expression neutral. The Emperor has agents everywhere. Did they catch this one? No, Stefanos replied. He was too skilled. Almost as if he had military training. The implied accusation hung in the air. Marcus knew he was being tested, either they truly suspected him, or this was another loyalty test. Either way, his response would determine whether he lived through the night. If you're suggesting I led him there, Marcus said with controlled anger, you misjudge me. I have no love for imperial spies. If you doubt me, give me a chance to prove otherwise. Servius stepped forward. That's precisely what we intend to do. He gestured to the weapons Marcus had brought. Tonight, we're moving our guest to a more secure location. You'll help provide protection during the transfer. Relief and anticipation surged through Marcus. This was exactly the opportunity they needed, a chance to locate Julia and potentially extract her during the vulnerable period of transfer. Of course, he agreed. Though I'd be more effective if I knew more details about what we're protecting against. The Umbra Mortis, Livia said quietly. The name hung in the air like a thunderclap. Marcus fought to keep his expression neutral, even as his mind raced. They knew of the unit's existence, a fact that few outside the Imperial inner circle should have known. The shadow of death, he questioned, allowing skepticism to color his tone. I thought that was just a myth, a story to frighten traitors. They are very real, Senator Junius assured him. The Emperor's personal assassins. No official recognition, no legal constraints. They've eliminated 3 of our associates in the past month, deaths that appeared to be from natural causes or accidents. If they exist, Marcus said carefully, how do you plan to defend against them? By being unpredictable, Servius explained. The transfer was planned for 2 days from now. We're moving tonight instead, using a route only I know. The girl will be secure in her new location before anyone realizes she's been moved. As they outlined the plan, Marcus listened attentively, memorizing every detail while considering how to alert his comrades. The Umbra Mortis had developed several emergency communication methods, but using any of them would risk exposing him. His opportunity came when Stefanos sent him to the villa stables to help prepare the covered cart that would transport Julia. Alone briefly, Marcus scratched a quick message into the wooden beam of the stable door, a simple set of symbols that would mean nothing to casual observers but would tell his comrades everything they needed to know if they managed to track him here. By midnight, everything was prepared. A closed cart with hidden compartments, for armed men including Marcus, and a route that would take them through Rome's darkened streets to a countryside estate owned by a cousin of Senator Junius. Bring her, Servius ordered. 2 of Stefanos's men disappeared into the villa's lower levels, returning minutes later with a slight figure wrapped in a dark cloak. Despite the covering, Marcus could see it was a young woman, her movements graceful despite being bound at the wrists. Remember, Servius told her quietly, your comfort and safety depend entirely on your cooperation. One sound, one attempt to signal for help, and things will become unpleasant. The hooded figure nodded once, her face still hidden from view. As they loaded her into the cart's hidden compartment, Marcus positioned himself where he could protect her if necessary while continuing to play his role. Servius would drive the cart, with Marcus and another guard riding inside. 2 more guards would follow at a distance, watching for pursuit. They set out just after midnight, the city streets nearly empty save for the occasional drunkard or patrolling urban cohort. Marcus maintained vigilant watch, his mind racing through scenarios. His message might not have been found. The Umbra Mortis might not be able to track them. He might need to act alone to save the girl, blowing his cover and potentially sacrificing himself in the process. An hour into their journey, as they approached the city gates, Servius suddenly pulled the cart into a narrow alley. What is it? Marcus asked, hand moving to his gladius. Praetorian checkpoint at the gate, Servius replied tersely. Unexpected. We'll take the old smuggler's tunnel instead. The change of plan sent a surge of alarm through Marcus. If they diverged from the expected route, any chance of the Umbra Mortis intercepting them would vanish. He needed to act soon, but with 3 armed conspirators watching his every move, the odds were not in his favor. As they navigated the narrow alley toward what Servius called the smuggler's entrance, Marcus made his decision. He would wait until they reached the tunnel, then create a distraction that would allow him to neutralize the guards and escape with Julia. They reached a decrepit warehouse near the city wall, its wooden doors hanging askew. Servius dismounted and led the horse and cart inside, where the dim interior revealed a large open space with a trapdoor set into the floor. "Down there," Servius directed. "The tunnel comes out 3 miles beyond the city walls." As they began unloading the cart, preparing to escort Julia through the tunnel on foot, Marcus positioned himself near her, ready to make his move. The hooded girl remained silent, though he could sense her fear and the slight trembling of her shoulders. "You first, Varro," Servius ordered, pointing to the open trapdoor. "Check that the tunnel is clear." Marcus hesitated, reluctant to leave Julia with the conspirators, but seeing no choice without revealing his true purpose. He nodded and moved toward the trapdoor, descending the rough wooden ladder into darkness below. The tunnel was low-ceilinged and dank, its earthen walls supported by ancient timbers. A single oil lamp hung from a hook near the entrance, casting long shadows. Marcus took it and moved forward cautiously, searching for any advantage the confined space might provide. He had advanced perhaps 20 paces when he heard the others beginning to descend. First came Servius, then the guard, and finally Julia, still hooded and bound, being half-guided, half-pushed down the ladder. "Move," Servius ordered, shoving Julia forward once she reached the tunnel floor. As they advanced through the narrow passage, Marcus calculated distances and angles, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The tunnel would emerge somewhere outside the city. If he could overpower Servius and the guard, he might be able to escape with Julia before the trailing guards realized what had happened. His opportunity came when they reached a fork in the tunnel. Servius paused, momentarily uncertain of the correct path. "Left," he finally said, but in that moment of hesitation, Marcus acted. Dropping the lamp, he plunged the tunnel into near-complete darkness, then spun and drove his elbow hard into the guard's throat. The man went down with a choked gurgle. In the same fluid motion, Marcus drew his gladius and turned toward where Servius had been standing. But Servius was no longer there. "I was wondering when you would make your move," came the officer's voice from the darkness, followed by the distinctive sound of a sword being drawn. "Did you really think we believed your story, Varro?" Marcus pushed Julia behind him, his back to the tunnel wall. "Run," he whispered to her. "Follow the tunnel left. Don't stop." "She won't get far," Servius said calmly. "And neither will you." The Umbra Mortis should have chosen their agent more carefully. A blade whistled through the darkness, missing Marcus by inches. He countered with a thrust of his own, connecting with nothing but air. In the confined space, with almost no light, the fight would come down to luck as much as skill. "Julia, run now!" Marcus shouted, abandoning any pretense. But instead of the sound of retreating footsteps, he heard a soft laugh from behind him, a laugh that didn't belong to a frightened 16-year-old girl. The hood fell away, and in the faint light filtering from the entrance, Marcus saw not Julia Flavia, but Naivia. "I believe that's my cue," she said calmly, and suddenly the tunnel was filled with the distinctive whistle of throwing knives cutting through the air. Servius cried out in pain and surprise. A moment later, light flooded the tunnel as Lucia appeared at the fork, holding a torch aloft, with Atticus close behind her. "You're late," Marcus said, relief flooding through him. "You're welcome," Lucia replied dryly, as Atticus moved to secure the wounded Servius. "Your message was received, though next time perhaps include which of the 6 possible routes you might be taking." Marcus turned to Naivia, who was calmly untying her bonds. "How did you substitute the package while you were creating your diversion in the stable?" she explained. "The real Julia is already safe, extracted by Cassius while everyone was focused on the transfer preparations. And the guards following us? No longer a concern, Atticus said grimly, binding Servius's hands behind his back. Marcus looked down at the man who had betrayed him in Britannia, now bleeding from Naevia's precisely placed throwing knife in his shoulder. What about the others? Stephanos, Senator Junius. Being rounded up as we speak, Lucia assured him. Your work identifying the conspirators gave us everything we needed. Rome owes you a debt, Marcus Varro. Rome has a strange way of repaying debts, Marcus replied, thinking of all he had lost and gained since that night in Britannia. Dawn was breaking over the 7 hills when they returned to the Umbra Mortis headquarters. Commander Rufus was waiting, his weathered face showing rare satisfaction. Well done, he said simply. The Emperor's niece is safe, the conspirators are in custody, and the Parthian treaty will proceed as planned. And Servius? Marcus asked. Being interrogated as we speak, Rufus replied. His information will help us root out any remaining elements of the conspiracy. Marcus nodded, a complex mix of emotions washing through him. Vengeance had been achieved, but it felt hollow compared to the satisfaction of completing the mission, of saving an innocent life. You've proven yourself, Varro, Rufus continued. Fully now. The Umbra Mortis is your home, your family, for as long as you wish it to be. Later, as Marcus sat alone in the headquarters' small courtyard, Lucia joined him, offering a cup of wine. To successful missions, she said, raising her cup. Marcus touched his cup to hers. To finding purpose in the shadows. Is that what you found here? She asked. Purpose? He considered the question carefully. In the Legion, I served Rome by following orders without question. Here I serve by questioning everything, by seeing beyond the surface to the truth beneath. He looked at her directly. It's a different kind of honor. The kind that doesn't need recognition or glory, Lucia said with understanding. The kind that ensures Rome survives its own worst impulses, Marcus agreed. I can live with that. As they sat in companionable silence, watching the sun rise over the eternal city, Marcus reflected on the strange path that had brought him here. From disgraced centurion to shadow warrior, from seeking vengeance to finding redemption in Rome's most dangerous military unit. Rome would never know of their actions tonight, or of countless other missions that kept the empire safe from threats within and without. History would record great battles, political machinations, and the public faces of power. But the true guardians of Rome's greatness would remain in the shadows, unnamed and unremembered, and that, Marcus realized, was exactly as it should be. For in the Umbra Mortis, glory was never the objective. Only Rome's survival mattered. And in that sacred duty, Marcus Varro had finally found his true home. As our story of Rome's most dangerous military unit comes to a close, remember that throughout history, the greatest heroes often fought their battles in shadow, their names lost to time while their deeds shaped empires. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient Rome's darkest secrets, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more untold stories from history's greatest civilizations. Until next time, remember, not all who serve seek glory, and not all victories are celebrated in the light of day.